Welcome to Warsaw, the city that survived its own death. The city that 76 years ago, in 1 hour's time, came together to rise up against German occupiers who had occupied the city for 5 long, brutal years. It was on the streets of Warsaw that people were rounded up and murdered in cold blood. It was on the streets of Warsaw where, leaving your house in the morning, you would never know if you would come back to your loved ones or see them ever again. It was on the streets of Warsaw where hundreds of thousands of Jews were sent in cattle trucks and murdered. And it was on the streets of Warsaw where 76 years ago people said enough. Welcome to the 4th edition of the only English language live broadcast here from Warsaw. My name is Patrick Ney and I'm delighted to join you today. If you're watching, for the next 2 hours we're going to give you a chance to be in Warsaw. You're with me now at the military cemetery here in Powązki, but we also have our darling Aleksandra Duda, who is the Warsaw Rising Museum guide. She is in the Old Town. She's going to be talking to tourists who are there visiting Warsaw at the moment. And we also have, guys, a very special view onto Rondo Dąbrowskiego. Many of you will know the images of the flares going over the side of Warsaw. Well, here's the good news. If you're watching W Hour, for the next 2 hours, you're going to have all 3 of those views and more. Now, I want to bring your attention to one thing. The first thing is I don't have a mask on for a very good reason. There's no one here. I've been coming to the military cemetery here in Powązki, and I have to say I think I've seen more people here on a normal day. I'm quite surprised by how few people are here. And I don't regret that. I think people are being sensible. They want to come and pay their respects, but they realise they can do that on any day. But I can tell you what, guys, this is one of the most beautiful places in Warsaw. But luckily we have Ola over on the eastern side of this part of the river, and she's going to be talking to people as well. So how does it work? What I would like you to do now, guys, if you're watching, is to let us know in the comments that you're watching and to stay with us. I would really appreciate it if you can support for the next 2 hours by keeping watching, keeping on the stream and sharing it. If you can send it on now in your messenger, on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, wherever you can send it on, because for the next 2 hours we're going to take you on an emotional roller coaster. This is a special year for many reasons. Because of the coronavirus, a lot of people aren't here in Warsaw. But I also realise one thing. They haven't been able to come to Warsaw. They haven't been able to fly in. Now, the reason why we do this is because I just had a telephone one day and was doing a live from these celebrations or from these commemorations. And a Warsaw Uprising soldier who lives in Australia actually said to me, "I can't come, I'm too sick," or his grandson wrote. "But I'm with you now in Warsaw because of this live transmission." So this is what we do. This is privately financed. This year I've decided to pay for it myself. But all I ask from you guys is to now be with us for the next 2 hours. We're going to be showing you the view from all 3 locations across the whole of Warsaw. So if you can't be in Warsaw, I can't think of a better place to be than on the W Hour transmission. But for this to work, we need to keep watching and to keep focused in. So let's show you some scenes from the Powązki Military Cemetery. But what I'm going to do, guys, is probably hand over to my colleague Ola, if my headquarters can give me a little bit of instructions. Am I right in thinking we're going to go over to Ola in the Old Town? Let me know. Did I understand the instruction correctly? This is the reason why I have headphones in, guys, because I've got a bit of communication going with the team. So if the headquarters can let me know if we're going to Ola, that would be useful. Did I understand?
Online streaming, we are at the heart of Warsaw, next to the Royal Castle of Warsaw, which was reconstructed after many years in 1980, so it's my age. For ages, this building was the seat of the kings of Poland, and the Polish history is so full of great events. And today we are here with you to commemorate one of the key events in the Polish history, which was the Warsaw Rising, which erupted exactly 76 years ago here in Warsaw. More than 35,000 insurgents fought against Germans for their freedom. And we're here today to ask passerbys, tourists and people we'll meet what they know about this event. So let's try to find someone. We may see some scouts sitting in here. So let's approach them and see whether they know anything about the Warsaw Rising. Hello, my name's Aleksandra. How about you? What's your name?
My name is Mikołaj.
So we belong to a scout organization. Do you know what's going on today?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that I know. It's 76th anniversary of Warsaw Uprising. It was in 1944 when Polish Home Army decided to bring up an uprising against German occupation. And we want to celebrate this day because it was a date when Polish people started a fight against Germans. They wanted to be liberated. They wanted to bring freedom to their capital and come across Soviets as a host of our country. And this is why they started an uprising.
Why is it important to commemorate such events in today's world? What's your opinion on that?
In my opinion, this is for gathering a nation, to make them feel as one and as a one body, one organized. And I think it is very important to remember to do not make any mistakes in the future.
And are you planning to take part in any commemorations? What's your plan for today evening?
Yes, I'm leading a scout team, and we are going to meet with Polish scouts from around the world, and some part of us are going to Powązki cemetery, and they will making a noise with a siren, and they will, as you know, or maybe not, at 5 a.m. PM. Sorry, there is a loud noise, which means the start of an uprising.
Okay, thank you very much. Take care. See you in the future. Okay, so let's try to find some other people who could tell us a little bit about what's going on. Excuse me, would you be so... No.
I'm sorry, I don't have time.
Oh, okay. Okay, so let's try to find anyone. So maybe we'll go over there. As you may see, it's very, very busy. We have lots of people, lots of tourists. Generally, there are not that many tourists due to coronavirus. However, still, lots of people decided to be here. There's a plan that at 5 p.m. there will be kind of small public gathering here, and people will try to form this symbol of fighting Poland, which was one of the key symbols of Polish resistance against the Germans. So I believe we need to find someone who would be so nice to tell us a few words on how he or she feels about this day. So maybe back to Patrick. Let's check what's going on at the Powązki military cemetery.
Well, thank you, Ola. Welcome back to the Powązki Military Cemetery. And part of what we do is to talk to people about what the Warsaw Uprising means to them. So what you can do is share in the comments why you're not in Warsaw, if you're watching this, if you're not in Warsaw, where you're watching it from, whether you have a personal family connection, what started your interest in the Warsaw Uprising, how you feel about maybe not being in Warsaw. These are all the subjects we're going to talk about today. And I am blessed to be joined by a good friend of mine, a very good new friend of mine, the most popular person at the party, Marysia Suchcic. Did I say that?
Tak. Yes, that's all good. Hello.
Now you speak with an impeccable accent because you were actually brought up in the UK. Tell the family story because it's interesting.
Yes, so my grandparents, all of my grandparents were born in Poland, but during the war, obviously, ended up in the UK or couldn't return afterwards. One of my grandfathers was an RAF pilot in the 305 Bomber Squadron, and another one...
What was his name?
So that was Zbigniew Bobiński. And then from my father's side, my grandfather was with General Maczek. So that's Jan Suchcic. And so, yeah, so my grandparents ended up in the UK after the war, couldn't come back, and well, they essentially stayed there, made it their home, and my parents were also brought up in very Polish households, so Polish history, Polish culture. The language was always really important, particularly as my grandparents couldn't come back. It was, it was important for them to keep it alive in London. And and similarly, my parents brought myself and my siblings up in that Polish heritage. I went to Polish Saturday school, did Polish Scouts, harcerstwo, and we were very lucky that we had a very strong Polonia group and organisation in London that basically meant that we could sort of foster those Polish roots, really learn the Polish culture, the language, while growing up outside of Poland.
So you were speaking in Polish at home, but it's like mini Poland, because there's two with third generation kids. It usually goes one of two ways. You either stay in the club, or you basically are just completely divorced from the culture. And I think it's fairly obvious from what you're just saying as to exactly which way it went. Why are you still a scout, Marisha? Because people tend. What does being a scout mean for you? And I'm always so impressed by the patriotism of the scouts. The Polish scouts are just awesome.
We really are. So for me, being in the harcerstwo, being a Polish scout, was very much a way for me to connect to my Polish heritage and to my Polish roots. But aside from that as well, it was an organisation which really sort of brought me up as a child. And I think it teaches very strong values. It teaches sort of that patriotism, that love for Poland, but also, love for other people and doing good work and, doing charitable activities and giving out that helping hand when it's needed. So aside from the fact that it had a very strong base in the Polish culture and the Polish history, and it was a way for us to really sort of maintain our Polish identity, there is that whole element of helping others, and I think that's why I am still a harcerka, is why I'm still a scout, and I am forever going to be grateful for those who sort of taught me as a scout, who ran our sessions, who ran all of our meetings, who ran our summer camps. And so I feel it's my job to do that back as well.
All power to the Scouts. Now, you've got people watching from around the world who may know more or less about the Warsaw Uprising. What would you like to tell them about what the Warsaw Uprising was, and also what it means to you now?
I think the Warsaw Uprising, it's a part of Polish history, but it's part of the Second World War history, which often gets forgotten. More is being said about it now, which is absolutely fantastic. But I think what people need to remember about the Warsaw Uprising, it was a fight to the very death. It was that last hope, and all of the insurgents, all of the powstańcy who went out and fought. You have to remember, these weren't the older people who had loads of training. These were actually the young people who had sort of grown up in occupied Warsaw, who had seen it basically be torn down, have its whole dignity taken away from it. And so these were very, very young people. I think that's what people often tend to forget, that while, yes, in the higher up and within the army, there were those who had that experience, but the people on the ground, they were really young. I shared a story today on my Twitter about my grandmother's brother, Piotrek Potorski, who was 20 years old at the outbreak of the Warsaw Uprising. And he died on the 6th of August, so he was only 20 years old, 3 months away from his 21st birthday, and that is the exact same age that my younger brother is now. And that for me really hit home, that moment when I thought, gosh, if Stefan were to now suddenly go and fight, and at that moment I think I even more became aware of just how young these people were, but the fact that it didn't matter. They knew, a lot of them knew that they weren't going to come back from this fight, and yet they did it, because for them it's that final fight, it was that hope to get Warszawa back, and they were doing it not for themselves but for everyone, for everybody else, to free not only Warszawa but Poland, and to show that actually there was still a strong fight left, and that no matter the 5 years of occupation that they'd suffered, the Poles were still here, and they wanted to make their voices heard, not only within Poland but to the West and to the Allies, and to get the Allies to really recognise that there were people still here fighting for the city and for the country that they really loved.
I was on TV today saying that the average British person knows precisely zero about the Warsaw Uprising. True or false?
I'd say that's true. I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those battles and one of those uprisings that hasn't made it into the history books, and in the curriculum there is so much about the Second World War. Rightfully so, we talk a lot about the Holocaust, we talk about the horrors that went on at Auschwitz, we talk about D-Day, the Normandy landings, and yet sort of this part of the world does get slightly forgotten, this part of Europe where if you think about the Warsaw Uprising, how long it lasted, an uprising which was only scheduled to that was planned to last a few days, ended up lasting over 2 months. And if you think about the mobilisation that went behind it, it's a fascinating event, tragic of course, but very fascinating, and it's sad that it hasn't made it into the mainstream sort of knowledge, and I think more needs to be done about that. It's about talking sort of generally about how this fits into the wider narrative of the war.
And when you bring your friends over from London, so non-Polish friends, what do they say when they find out about the history of Warsaw?
Often they're shocked about just how bloody and tragic it is. I think often people know that Poland was sort of in the hub of the Second World War, but they don't actually realise just how repressive the measures that were taken here, just how bloody they were. I think because of that, when people do come and visit, whether they go to the Warsaw Uprising Museum, or even if you take them around Warsaw and you show them the city and they ask, well, it doesn't look very old, and you sort of say, well, that's because it was basically completely demolished, razed to the ground, and there was nothing left, and this all had to be rebuilt, and you show them photos. I think that's when it hits them that actually this is a part of the world that was very much aimed to be wiped off the map, and yet it's rebuilt itself.
Marysia, thank you very much for joining us. Marysia has helped me on a film recently. We did an interview with Marek Ostrowski, which I highly recommend. It's on thefirstnews.com. It's one of our partner pages, so you can go and see it. Marek survived the Warsaw Uprising as a 6.5-year-old boy. We're going to go over to Ola very quickly, but I want, Marysia, for you to just talk about your emotions as you worked on that film, because what he said in that film, and it's only a portion of what he said, is utterly terrifying. How did you react to Marek's testimony?
When I was working on that film, doing the captions, a couple of times I had to stop and just give myself a moment. I've cried multiple times. I'm not scared. I'm not afraid to admit that I cried multiple times. And it's sort of when you think that this is the experience of just one person who was 6.5. If you think about, and if you do watch the video, you'll understand that what Pan Marek saw at the age of 6.5, what he experienced, it's horrifying. So very emotional.
No child should ever have to see that. Okay, so we're going to go back over to the old town. I'm going to wave my hand and do the signal, which I forgot to agree with the team, which is we're going to head back to Ola. So she's got someone to talk to over there. Remember, stay with us because you'll be in Warsaw Live for 5 o'clock. So going back to Ola in the old town.
You can say in Polish.
Rocznica powstania warszawskiego, prawda? Wiemy. Uzbekistan. Yes, we do.
Okay, and do you believe that this day is important for Polish people and those who feel to be Polish?
Of course, it is, for sure.
I think it's important also for foreigners who visit Polish to know better the Polish history, really.
And what do you know about the Warsaw Rising?
I know many in Russian, in Russian language, I mean. Maybe you know.
Ja mogę po polsku powiedzieć, tak?
We would prefer
in English.
It's in English online streaming.
Okay, even. So, okay, I know that it was rise from 44, right? And against of Nazis. Yeah, Polish people were waiting that Soviet Union will help, but unfortunately they didn't. So they're just waiting in another side of Vistula River. And that's why Polish people just lost their rise. So it's like basically it's not the day where Polish are happy about, right? So it's like just.
This is a very tragical event, yes, that's right, that's right. And do you feel that it's needed to commemorate such events in the history of any nation?
Of course, yeah, naturally, of course, because it's very important day for Polish history, for Polish, just for everybody. I mean, for young people, right? For future, even it is always. I mean, the nation has to remember this kind of days which are very important in each nationality, right? For everybody, yeah. So.
Do you believe that national identity is very important to anyone?
National identity, yes, of course. But I think all the nationalities are important. So we just have to live with each other like in peace. First of all, because national identity it's something beautiful, of course, but we're all people, human beings. So this is what important most first of all.
Are you trying to preserve your national identity in Poland? Your traditions?
Yes, but I'm here. I'm living in Poland for 20 years already.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so it is hard to keep so long. Yeah, my own national traditions. But of course, I'm trying in my family first of all. But I like, of course, Polish traditions as well.
So thank you for this conversation. Take care. Bye bye. Thank you.
Where we can see it.
Well, it's transmitted.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in the military cemetery in Powązki, and I'm keeping socially distanced, so I still haven't got my mask on, but don't worry, if the time comes I will do. I can see that people are starting to gather a little bit more. What I would say is people are coming a little bit later. You can see people over here as well, and what I'm going to do, guys, is tell you about an amazing story. So this cemetery is obviously quite old. You can see here Rubinstein. There's a series of really interesting graves over here, and what I want to do is show you the number of people who are gathering just over here. So what they're gathering to go and have a look at are recently renovated graves, and there's been this fantastic grassroots citizen-led initiative to renovate the graves here in the Powązki Military Cemetery. Guys, if you've never been to Warsaw, I can say that this is probably be one of the first places you should go. And this military cemetery is utterly beautiful. It's well maintained and well kept, but the sheer number of graves of different Warsaw Uprising soldiers and also civilian victims. There are graves a little bit further over where you can see those groups of people for 3 young girls whose mother was killed at the start of the uprising, and they survived almost until the end of the uprising before being killed, I think if I remember rightly, by an air attack at the end of September. 3 little beautiful girls. And guys, I'm so very proud of the Poles that put their own money in to get these graves renovated. For social distancing reasons, we're not going to get too close, plus, frankly speaking, there's a crowd there. But if you see these graves, and in fact, you can see the little red and white ribbons that are wrapped around, you'll see that they're lovingly tended. If any of you have been in Poland on the 1st of November, or the 11th of November, you'll notice just how well tended these graves are. They're utterly stunning. There's something quite, if I can say this, quite live about Polish cemeteries. They tend to be quite lively places. People come, they clean. Now, in my family, we have family connections. So through my mother's side, who's Polish, her great aunt was murdered on the 5th of August 1944. She was a 15-year-old nurse, and she was executed in a courtyard along with 10 other nurses, all of whom were teenagers, and the doctors of a hospital. Just like Marisha, my guest previously said before, she wasn't trying to be a soldier. She was just trying to help other people, and she was a scout. They're really impressive. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm pretty emotional just even talking about it. And then not far from there is the symbolic grave of her brother, so my wife's grandfather. So when you come to the Powązki Military Cemetery, you're seeing this continuity of this history. But what you see over there with these new graves is something else. This is about preparing this cemetery for the challenges of the next 100 years. The initiative is called Nie zapomnij o nas powstańcach warszawskich, and it's really super fajnie, okay, as we say in Polish. I highly encourage you guys to check them out. I'd also like to super thank all of our partner portals. So if you're watching this, you may be watching this on a number of different portals. You might be watching this on Mikołaj Kaczmarek, Color Histories portal. You might be watching this on thefirstnews.com. You might be watching this on Go to Warsaw, the tourist hotspot for Warsaw. You might be watching this on British Poles and other partner sites as well. I'm super grateful for all of those people for giving their portals over so that we can do this live transmission. As you can see, I think things are coming to get a little hotter up here. We've got a special segment. I'm just going to tell the studio now. So guys, we're going to run with the Bogdan Dębinski segment in about 30 seconds. Guys, you may remember, if you were watching this live last year, that we captured the most extraordinary moment that I've ever had whilst I was at the military cemetery. And we decided that around about 4:30 we would show you this segment. So I'm just going to give you a bit of the backstory. Myself and Mariusz, our camera guy, were situated towards the south of the Gloria Victis. It's the focal point of the cemetery here. It's where the VIPs will be assembling in a few minutes' time. And we were with Michael Dębinski, who, as many of you will know, he's the chief advisor of the British-Polish Chamber of Commerce, and as his name would give out, is the son of 2 AK members of the Polish Home Army. And his father, Bogdan Dębinski, started a tradition only recently in the last few years of coming to this cemetery to pay respects to his brother, Józef, who was killed, just like Marysia was saying, at a very young age. And what we did last year was quite extraordinary. Just at the end of our transmission, after 8 hours of going live, we were live all day. It was one of the craziest things I've ever done. We found out that Bogdan was going to come and lay flowers for his brother. Now, bearing in mind that Bogdan was at an advanced age and it was physically difficult for him to be here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Bogdan found the strength to lay those flowers. And what we filmed that day would become the stuff of internet legend. The video that was created from that moment has been shared around the world, and it made Bogdan a little bit of an internet celebrity. He started to get interview requests from all around the world. So, studio, I hope you're ready, because I'd like to ask you in a few moments to go over to the moving, emotional moment when Bogdan Dębinski laid flowers at his brother Józef's grave.
The sun isn't as bright as it was a year ago, ladies and gentlemen, but that was one of the most moving moments I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of that clip, I said to Bogdan Dębinski, I'll see you this year. And unfortunately, we won't be seeing Bogdan Dębinski this year, because after we filmed that recording, I'm sad to say that Bogdan Dębinski passed away. He was a patriot, he was a hero, and I'm proud to say that in the last few years of his life, I could call him a friend. It was emotional to say goodbye to Bogdan, because just like with every year, you never quite know. And here's another reason why the coronavirus sucks badly, because this cemetery is not full of people like it should be. People are very wisely taking a step back and not coming here, and it's one of the reasons why I'm happy to do this. But I'm afraid Bogdan Dębinski passed away. What you can do to honour Bogdan Dębinski's memory is to come here to the Powązki Military Cemetery on another day, like I'm sure other people will do, and lay a flower for his brother. His brother was called Józef Dębinski. And after we do this live, the first thing I'm going to do when I come back to the cemetery is go and lay a flower at his grave. I would like to start a tradition that when tourists come to Warsaw, they don't just go to the Warsaw Uprising Museum, as much as we love people from the museum, and the museum is a great place, that they come here, because there's something about reading these graves which is really fantastic. I'm going to see if I can grab a guest. Got some lovely scouty boys here. Let's see if we can find a guest. Dzień dobry, czy mówicie po angielsku? Where are you from?
Poland.
And are you in charge of these scouty children?
No, not me. Her.
Can you translate for this lady why she's here?
Yeah. We are here from the Ministry of Child's Law, because we're with him, and we're for I don't know how to spell ZHP. Yeah, I don't know.
The Polish Scouting Association.
Yeah, this one, and we're here from this when our president come here. We're like.
And where are these children from? They're from Warsaw?
Łódź. watch, yeah, see.
And are they excited to be here?
I think so.
Jesteście podekscytowani, tak? Bycie tutaj, fajnie tu jest, prawda? Super jest, nie? Taki ładny. Machajcie teraz na aparat, bo ludzi oglądają ze całego świata. Are they happy to be scouts?
I think so. They're so happy. Jak długo są scoutami teraz?
To są grupa klasa 1-3.
So this is from first to third years.
To są zuchy.
Like 7 to 9 years, I think so.
Młodsze zuchy. Młodsze harcerze.
They're young ones, okay. And the thing is, guys, I'll give you a little bit. You may not know this, but during the Warsaw Uprising, children of this age were running around the city delivering messages for people. Children around this age were risking their lives to get messages from one commander to another. And it wasn't much more than a few years above this, and sometimes they were even carrying weapons as well. Some of the youngest soldiers in the Warsaw Uprising were 12, 13. You know, my children aren't scouts yet. I'm getting too emotional. I think I'm just getting too soft for this. You know what? I am just getting too soft for this. I think I'm going to have to take a break next year and go on holiday. But it's kind of like a mission. I'm so proud of these kids. You know, they're just so absolutely fantastic. There's something about the continuity of tradition which is tremendously appealing. It's one of the reasons why I came to Poland. Again, can you share this episode? Can you make sure you're writing in comments? Can you talk to us about why you're watching as well? And just generally do your part to make this W-Hour celebration. So guys, in about half an hour-ish, you will be watching Godzina W, the W-Hour from 3 different locations around the city. I'm going to pass back to Ola in a moment, who's going to be talking to some lovely person in the Old Town. Let us know in the comments how you're watching, where you're watching from. Do your part to share this, comment, and make this live a success. This is the only 3-camera English language transmission. I do this out of my personal money, and I'm super grateful for all the partner portals for doing this and the whole team of people who stands behind it. So, Ola, are you ready? Because I'm going to be handing it back to the Old Town in 2, 1.
Okay.
Sure. Jestem gotowy.
Okay. Hello. Would you be so kind to tell us what's going on today in Warsaw, do you know?
I have no idea, actually. I just came for a ride on my scooter and then I just saw everybody here. There is no COVID-19, I think.
Where are you from?
I'm from Malta.
From Malta, okay. So today we are commemorating the Warsaw Rising, the outburst of...
Uprising, yes, yes.
Have you ever heard anything?
The whole book about it, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What was the author of the book?
I have no idea. They sell it actually here in the souvenir shops, so I don't think it has an author. It's just a collection of articles.
A prospectus.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
That's it, okay. So what you've learned in this short piece of paper?
The first uprising against the Nazis, and I'm really proud of Poland, actually. I've been living here for 3 years and a half. You have an amazing country. I love it.
What do you love the most about Poland?
It's very organized, very clean, and very different. We are used to rocks and sea. So here it's more parks, and it's very nice. You did a good job for sure, yes.
Okay. And getting back to the history of the Warsaw Rising, why do you think the Polish people decided to fight against the Germans?
You know, it's a duty. If you love your country, you defend your country, and that's what you did. So it's very good.
Do you believe that national identity is important in today's modern world?
Of course, of course.
Do you practice your Maltese traditions?
Yes, of course. We eat a lot of rabbits, so I cook a lot of rabbits at home. Yeah.
Yeah, I know about that because we have lots of guests from Malta.
We also have a large Polish community in Malta. So, yes, I knew a lot of Polish friends from Malta already. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this conversation.
Happy commemoration.
Yeah. Take care. Bye bye. Would you be so kind to tell a few words?
There's something stirring about the sight of a sailing flag. I'm so proud that hundreds of you are watching all around the world now. This is the only English language live transmission being streamed throughout 3 multiple sites in Warsaw. What you're going to see in half an hour is simply something that is not seen in any capital around the world. There is no city that stands still to pay respect like the city of Warsaw. We are doing this to be able to get this message out to other people about the Warsaw Uprising, which, as Marisha, that lovely scout who so eloquently put it, is just not well known. Now, you'd have seen that my mask has gone up a little bit. Still not too many people here in Warsaw. I've got to be honest, guys, I've never seen anything like this. I was expecting it to be busy but socially distanced. But actually, there's almost no one here still. Normally these little aisles here would be completely pulled. You can see scouts from around the world, and you can also see there's a reconstruction chap with a Sten gun. Hopefully I was firing a Sten gun yesterday, guys. Not a particularly reliable piece of kit, but actually yesterday it didn't jam at all. There's something about holding those guns. So let me tell you a little bit about the ammunition. So they had some Stens, they had some locally made Polish błyskawice, which apparently are more reliable, some Vis pistols, Mosin Nagants. I could get into a little bit of a long story about the weapons they've got. Yesterday, guys, I went and fired a Vis pistol, I fired a Sten, a PPS, and various other weapons. And I tell you, it's really quite something when you hold the actual guns. Look at those patriotic kids, guys. We're going to go over to Ola, my colleague, in a second, but I can see that things are starting to heat up here, so hopefully I can find someone interesting to speak to. Guys, in about 25-ish minutes, you will be watching live, so stay with us, keep sharing, keep watching, keep this live going, okay? You're as much a part of making this happen as I am, and Mariusz and the rest of the team. So, Ola, I'm going to be passing over to the Old Town, and we'll speak to you soon.
Hello, we're back at the Warsaw Rising live broadcast. We've just met two young gentlemen who will be nice to react on what's going on today in Warsaw. So, do you know what's going on in Warsaw today?
Yes, of course. Today we have in Warsaw a very important day because it's 76th anniversary of Warsaw Uprising. For me it's a very important day because my grandfather's brother was this Polish soldier and he took part in this uprising, and for me it's very important because he fight for my freedom and for his and for our independence. So in my opinion it's one of the most important day for Poland.
And what is your understanding of freedom in today's world? What does it mean to be free?
I think it's a very difficult question, and at the moment I should think about this more time, but freedom, maybe independence of another countries, that I can choose my religion, that I can go where I would like to go, where I can study, and I can live in peace.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you like to add something?
Well, I would say that the Warsaw Uprising is generally considered to be a symbol of a Polish spirit of independence and just this willingness to always fight for what's right for us, that there's no peace for whatever price, as it was said before the war.
Do you believe that it's important to commemorate this event by the young people today?
Yes, I believe that it's one of the biggest parts of our culture, and who would we be without our culture?
I can't think of a better summary, so I'd like to thank you for this short conversation. And just to end up, could you tell me, are you going to participate in any commemorations today? Have you ever participated in anything that's organized in Warsaw during this period?
Yes, we are going to visit the place there, and we would like to hear the song of the uprising.
Okay, thank you very much. Take care. Okay, so as I said, we are at the heart of Warsaw, next to the royal castle, and maybe we'll try to find anyone else who would be so kind to tell us a few words on what's going on today in Warsaw. Maybe let's ask these people. Excuse me, would you be so kind to tell us what's going on today in Warsaw?
It's nie wiem jak to jest, że
Nie wiem.
about Warsaw Uprising, but rocznica? Oh no, please. No.
Is it important for you?
Yes, of course, because we are Polish, więc so yes. But I don't like to tell to camera, but so sorry.
Thank you, take care. Okay, so let's find some other people, maybe they will be more willing to say a few words on that. As you may see, it's getting busier and busier because in just 20 minutes we'll have W hour, the launch hour of the Rising, when 76 years ago, the insurgents started the rising. More and more people will gather here to commemorate this very important event, as you've heard, for many, many young people, not only the young ones, the older ones too. This day is very, very important. It's very dear to their hearts because so many of their relatives, so many of their family members lost their lives, but also for normal Poles, they feel it. They feel in their hearts that's important to be here, to pay tribute to those who gave their lives at the altar of the homeland. So back to Patrick, who's at the military cemetery of Powązki. Thank you.
Yeah, we end. You know, the debate around the Warsaw Uprising will probably go on for as long as Poland goes on. In other words, for quite a long time. And I was at this morning at Filtrowa Street to mark the location where the decision to take the uprising took place. Guys, if you're interested in the story of the uprising, I heartily recommend a book. This is Paddy's top #1 book for the Warsaw Uprising, and with all due respect to Professor Norman Davies, it's not Mr. Norman Davies' book. It's actually Alex Ritchie, Dr. Alex Ritchie. She's a historian, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing her for the First News multiple times. And Alex Ritchie wrote the book Warsaw 1944. Warsaw 1944, in my opinion, is the best book on the Warsaw Uprising. So go on to amazon.com.co.uk or .de, wherever you're watching this from. And if you're inspired to find out more, I do really recommend that book. Yesterday I had an interview with Alex where we talked about the decision to launch the uprising. And depending on what your point of view is in this, you can sometimes feel, for example, that people overemphasize the heroism of the Warsaw Uprising and underemphasize the tragedy of it. Or you might have people who go the other way round and, you know, just treat the whole thing as a disaster. I think the truth of the Warsaw Uprising is as many participants as there were, that's as many truths as there were at the Warsaw Uprising. There were some people who, right up until the end of their lives, would say it was one of the greatest periods of their life, despite it all. Depending on which area of the city you were in, you could have had a better or a worse Warsaw Uprising. I want to tell you now, guys, about what happened in the west of the city, in the Wola and Ochota districts. As Dr. Alex Ritchie told me yesterday, the order rang out when Hitler found out that Warsaw had risen up against him. Hitler's order was very clear. Take back the city, kill all the soldiers, kill all the civilians, and destroy the city. It's no accident that even after 63 days of combat, the Warsaw Uprising had finished, German soldiers were still investing so much time and energy in destroying Warsaw, because that was carrying out Hitler's orders. If the Warsaw Uprising had gone on longer or shorter or whatever, it still would have resulted in the destruction of the city, because it gave Hitler the excuse to destroy the country. To do it, they would have done it. So there's one, I think, wonderful thing about it, which at least is that because the battle went on for so long, Erich von den Bach, who was not a nice character at all, the leader of the German troops there, eventually realised that it wasn't paying off to murder this many civilians. But in the Wola and Ochota districts of the city, some of the worst urban genocide of the Second World War took place. I can almost hardly not bring myself to tell you about the kind of scenes that were there, my friends. Unfortunately, I'm duty bound to, because if we don't acknowledge that these acts take place, they'll disappear into the graveyard of history and be forgotten. So it quite literally was mass murder. Initially, the troops would arrest people, bring them down into the courtyards and shoot them down in their droves. But as so often in that long, brutal, bloody conflict, what was found out was that this is a rather inefficient way to murder people. There's a science to it, there's an art, and unfortunately the soldiers who were sent to Warsaw were the world's best at genocide and butchery of civilians. They perfected it in the east, in Belarus, and then they took it here to the city of Warsaw. So they started to use empty factory grounds and started to shoot people down, and they would literally ask people to come in, lay down and be executed. So these people were walking, almost certainly knowing in great terror that they were going to be murdered. One of those people was Wanda Ruri. She was a mother, I think, of about 3 kids, and she was pregnant. She was almost 9 months pregnant, so very heavily pregnant. and she was also ordered to go into this large courtyard for this factory. Wanda and all of her family were shot down. Wanda was injured but not killed. All of her children around her were murdered. And she lay there amongst the bodies, hearing the German soldiers executing anyone who was left over. Somehow Wanda Lurie found the strength. She somehow found the strength to survive that by playing dead all the way through the night, and then during the night was able to crawl to safety. She crawled to safety, crawling over the bodies of her murdered children, with her 9-month-old baby inside her. And do you know what she said? The only reason she was able to find the strength was because she felt her baby kicking in her stomach, and that gave her the strength to carry on. Her son continued to give thanks for the strength of character of Wanda Lurie for many years to come, and we remember her today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go back to Ola in the Old Town. As you can see here, we're starting to get more busy. I think it's time for some social distancing from my side. So Ola, back to you.
I zaczynamy? So we are back at the city centre, and we've just met someone who will tell us what does the Warsaw Rising mean to her, whether she knows anything about it. Hello, my name's Aleksandra. What's your name?
My name is Xiao, and I'm from China. I'm very excited to be here today because I know today is a very important day for every Polish person. And just now I saw one old guy, he's wearing some soldier clothes, so I guess he used to fight in this Warsaw Uprising, and I feel very touched and excited. Yeah. I know Warsaw Uprising because I watched one Polish TV series. It's the TV series tells about Warsaw Uprising, and everyone, no matter you're a kid or you're old, everyone is fighting for Poland, for Poland's freedom. Yeah, so I'm very admire the spirit.
Okay, thank you. What does national identity means to you?
I think everyone should have know that where are you from. No matter where you go to other country, you should always remember your own country's history. Where are you from? Yeah, this is very important.
In what way we may commemorate our tradition and the most important events of our history?
You mean in Poland?
And as for your Chinese also culture?
Yeah, in Poland, for example, there's a Warsaw Uprising. Every year, everyone come here together to memorize this day. And as for in China, we have this National Day in October 1st. It's also everyone remember everyone Chinese one fighting for our own country's freedom. Yeah.
And what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom means like you have right to do what you want to do, to say what you want to say, and also you can go anywhere you want.
Are you planning to take part in any commemorations today? Because we have lots of events, although they are not as numerous as normally due to coronavirus. But are you planning to do something special related to the commemorations of the Warsaw Rising?
Yeah, I know this due to this coronavirus situation, many activities are cancelled. But today I still want to come here. You know, even I just stand here to see what's going on, to see people talking about uprising. I feel I'm in part of it.
And do you know what will be going on here at 5 p.m.?
Yeah, not sure. I'm waiting for the 5 p.m. event happen. Yeah.
So thank you very much. So maybe let's go back to Patrick and let's find out what's going on right now at the Powązki Cemetery, because we have about 10 minutes to W hour. So as I said, the launch hour of the Warsaw Rising. Later on we'll try to show you an immense symbol of the fighting Poland that it is to be formed here by people, yes, just next to the Caln of King Sigismund III and the Royal Castle of Warsaw. Back to Patrick, thank you.
Okay guys, so I am here and I've inserted myself a little bit of people, so I'm socially distancing now, as you can see, taking it seriously. And there's a lovely lady over here on the left. I think you can show the lady Marish if you want to, who I actually know from Powiśle. You can say hello and wave. A możesz czekami? Chcecie machać? Machajcie. Machajcie na kamerę. Wave at the camera, guys. Oh, little boy's waving. Guys, let's give some hearts and some loves and some thumbs up for these lovely little children. I'm imagining that bringing them here is a ritual, because I happen to know these guys moved out. They happen to be old neighbours. We used to play together. So guys, there's a reason why I wanted to show you these kids, because I'm now going to show you a little 2-minute film that I made last week. And it's the film of the story of 11 girls that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And it was a bit of a passion project for me. I've been a bit busy this year, haven't done as much history work as possible because I've been helping Polish parents, but I have a family connection to one of the girls in that story. I'd like you to listen to this film, watch it, and just think about what it means for you. Because there are a lot of tears put into making this film, my friends. A lot of tears indeed. So studio, if you can release the film Song and Bravery in the Face of Death. The story I'm about to tell you is so tragic, I don't know if I'll make it through to the end. August 1944. The people of Warsaw rise up against the German occupiers in what will become the biggest battle of World War II. 11 teenage girls volunteered to serve as nurses and are sent to a field hospital in the western Wola district of the city. Unbeknownst to them, Adolf Hitler has ordered that Warsaw be wiped off the face of the earth, and Wola is where it begins. After 5 days, the front line reaches the hospital and the Germans start to shell the buildings with artillery. They enter the complex, killing patients in their beds and setting the buildings on fire so that patients are forced to escape them and jump to their deaths rather than be burnt alive. The German soldiers then order the teenage girls and the doctors outside into the courtyard. They line the doctors up and shoot them one at a time in the head. Then it's the girls' turn. The soldiers order them forward. They step forward together, and you know what? They're singing the Polish national anthem. They served together, they stood together, and they were murdered together. I don't ask anything of you now, except to hold the people you love dearly closer than ever before and give thanks that you can be with them. And to hold a little place in your heart for those girls and the 1,200 other people who were murdered on that day, in that place, on the 5th of August, 1944. And if you're ever in Warsaw, come to the military cemetery here in Powązki and lay a flower at these girls' graves. You know, a little while ago there was a guy who wrote to me on Facebook saying that I was earning money off the backs of Polish taxpayers by promoting some kind of historical narrative. And I'd like to tell that person that he should tell that to the families of those 11 girls, because I worked day and night to produce that film. It's a simple message, but I hope you find it a powerful one. It's about what people can do when they come together in the service of others. And I'd ask you now to go onto my YouTube channel to share that film. It's called Song and Bravery in the Face of Death. So those 11 girls are never forgotten. We are here not too far away from there. And the family connection I have is that Leokadia Wysocka is the great aunt of my wife. And it's very, very sad to have to tell you that story, but I'm so very glad that I pushed myself through and made that film. So guys, thank you so much for joining with us. There's hundreds of you watching now. This is by far the biggest thing we've ever done. I'm super, super grateful. So guys, in a few more minutes, we're going to be showing you Godzina W hour, from 3 different locations, from the Old Town, from the Novotel, just by Ronda Domowskiego, and here from Cmentarz Wojskowy, the military cemetery in Powązki. Ola, I'm going to go back to you shortly for the last check in the Old Town before we start to show you. I can say now the crowds are still very thin compared to how they usually look, but you can see there's young people, elderly people. There's definitely not very many uprising soldiers. Of course, there's only a few hundred left. Ola, I'm going to pass back over to you, and very shortly, guys, we will be going live with W Hour, the emotional moment when Warsaw stands still. Okay,
welcome back. We are here to present you another guest. So we've just met someone. Where are you from?
Ecuador.
From Ecuador, okay. Do you know what's going on today in Warsaw?
I am feeling the patriotism of the Polish people. I don't believe it. Your history, your happy day, and congratulations for this.
And what are we commemorating today? Do you know what exactly?
Explaining the history, he's explaining the special day, no? And looking the flags, the color, flowers. It's all very interesting.
So today we have the 76th anniversary of the Warsaw Rising, when Polish people...
I think it's amazing, this moment, because it's 4 minutes, no?
Yeah. So
and
the whole Warsaw is to stop for a minute of silence. So thank you to be with us today.
Don't travel for see this time. Only for this minute.
So that's great. So thank you for being with us. Okay, take care. Thank you. So as you see, people from different parts of the world are coming to participate in this very special moment for us, when we are stopping to commemorate all those who gave their lives for Poland. As you may see, more and more people are being gathered, and these are young people, older ones and kids. It's very important that young generations are being prepared to commemorate what happened in the past, because our roots are very, very important to our identity, as you've heard when we were talking to the passerbys in today's broadcast. And now back to Patrick. Thank you.
And now you can see at the cemetery here, I think I can see the president arriving, the President of the Republic of Poland, with the other dignitaries. As ever, guys, as important as the VIPs are, the real VIPs are the Warsaw Uprising soldiers, many of whom are not here today. There's not so many elderly people. Of course, as the years go by, their number thins out. There's only a few thousand left, perhaps a couple of thousand. The soldiers are bringing arms, and very shortly the whole of Warsaw will stand still. Remember that with this, you're watching from 3 different locations. You have the best view in the house, not because you're watching the VIPs, ladies and gentlemen, but because you're in Warsaw right now. You're going to be seeing it from Ronda Domowskiego, from the Old Town, from the centre of Warsaw, as the flares alight, as the people of Warsaw stand still. You will be watching the faces and emotions. You know, ladies and gentlemen, it's been quite a difficult few weeks for me personally to put this all together. But I'm so grateful that all of you are watching us live right now. I'm really grateful because I know for many of you, you've been utterly sad that you haven't been able to get to Warsaw. And because of this live, you're watching this, and it's in English as well. We're going to be keeping going after Godzina W, so I still hope that you can watch with us. The 5 o'clock moment is going to start very soon. Remember, we're going to be watching about up until about 6 o'clock, I would say. We'll probably keep going live. Ola will still be in the Old Town talking to people about the Warsaw Uprising there. I'll still be going around here. You can see our good friend Marisha over there, a scout standing to attention. Ladies and gentlemen, shortly 5 o'clock will come. Wherever you are in the world, whether you're in the US, Australia, South America, continental Europe, or the UK, when the 5 o'clock sounds and the sirens go, when the flares light up, when the candles burn, when people stand to attention, I would like you also to stand to attention. I would like you also to stop, to turn off your phones, and to bear witness and to give memory to the people of Warsaw, to the upwards of 200,000 civilians who were murdered in the streets not far away from where we are now, as well as several dozen, so at least 15,000 Warsaw Uprising soldiers. It's a human suffering, it's a human story. It's a tale of people who weren't prepared to lie down and take it. People who wanted to fight back after 5 years of terror, did fight back. It's one of the most extraordinary battles of the Second World War because it's the longest uprising that ever took place in the Second World War. So the liberation of Paris, guys, 5 days. And compared to the Warsaw Uprising was really, I don't want to call it storm in a teacup because people lost their lives and we're very sad about that, but it's something else. The Warsaw Uprising is unique and the way that Polish people commemorate it is unique. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us now around the world to stand still to mark the Warsaw Uprising. Może pozostań na rondo do... Ladies and gentlemen, the Polish national anthem has rung out at the Bowąski Military Cemetery. The soldiers will now fire soldiers come to arms, and the Warszawski Hej now rings out. Thank you so much for joining us around the world, ladies and gentlemen, to witness this emotional moment. Thousands of you are watching right now. Stay with us. We're going to be here right up until 6 o'clock Warsaw time, talking to people, so you can be in Warsaw sharing this moment with us as well. And now there are prayers from the Bishop of Warsaw. Let us know how you're feeling right now, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know where you're watching from in the world. Let us know if you have a family connection to the Warsaw Uprising. Let us know if you've ever been in Warsaw and you've been to the places now. Let us know how you're feeling if, for example, you wanted to be in Warsaw but you couldn't this year. As the Bishop reads out the prayers, I'm going to be reading some of your comments in a minute as well.
Proszę weź jakiegoś śmiało. Już? Welcome back to the heart of Warsaw. We've just had the W hour when all the people stopped to commemorate the heroes of the past, the heroes of the Warsaw Rising. Together with me is one of the ladies who's wearing a very nice clothes, as you may see, which are commemorating the times of the Rising, what was going on here. Could you tell us why the Warsaw Rising is important to you?
It's very important to me because it has really important meaning. It has really big power in people. It mobilized a really huge mass of people to get together and fight for the Poland, for their capital and their future.
Do you believe that commemorating the Rising is important to young people nowadays?
100% it's important to young people nowadays.
Do you have lots of friends who remember what happened on August the 1st, 1944?
As you can see, many of my friends are here behind me, so yes.
How often do you meet? This is just a one-time occasion where you are wearing these clothes, or you just meet every week to do something together?
We travel to different cities to memorize different happenings and events in this clothes and many different. Yes.
And what are reactions of people when they see you?
Sometimes they start filming or tell something like go get it, and sometimes I think we didn't have like bad situations and maybe weird looks, but not many.
Do you have some plans to commemorate the Rising in some other ways today or in the days to come?
Now we are going back to our town and we are making a movie from today's filmings.
Okay. And where are you from?
I'm from Poznań.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure to talk to you. So as you see, so many young people are involved in commemorating what happened many, many years ago. It means that tradition is very important to Polish people. And as you may see, we've just had this commemoration of W hour, so people are moving somewhere else, but still it's very, very crowded. Today in the evening, lots of people will gather next to the Warsaw Rising Museum when they will be singing songs from the time of World War II and from the time of the Rising. This is a moment full of joy when people gather to be together, to remember about those who perished during this terrifying, horrifying conflict, which was one of the greatest urban battles of World War II. So that's all from me, from the heart of Warsaw. Back to Patrick.
Okay, we're back here with Marisha, our little scout. That sounds ridiculous.
That's fine, we can go with that.
Marisha, you sang the Polish national anthem with full gusto there. How are you feeling?
It's emotional. It's a really moving moment, I think, for me as well. When I first hear the sirens, there's always that, it does, my hairs just stand on end, and towards the end it is really emotional when you just think of all the lives that were going to be lost, but it's also a very proud moment, and especially that everyone sort of comes together. And so, yeah, I think it's a mixture of emotions, of pride, of sadness, but yeah, generally a sense of community, and I think that's the most important thing here.
Guys, let us know what you think about the Warsaw Uprising. I've been reading your comments and I see a lot of you have got some kind of family connection, so it could be that your mother has been involved in this. My mum keeps writing to me say I need to put my mask up, but every time I talk the mask goes down. Well, such are the problems with doing live streams in the day of coronavirus. Guys, we're going to be keeping going till 6 o'clock, okay? So I really want you to stay with me, but I also want you to share this, okay? You can send this live on right now and people can go back and watch W Hour. You can find it on YouTube as well if you're watching on YouTube. I really want to thank all our partner pages. So Go to Warsaw, The First News, Mikołaj Kaczmarek, Stefan Thompson. I'm sure there's another couple of other ones that I've forgotten as well. Guys, we're so grateful that you've been able to cross-post this, which means that we can get out to a lot more people. My mum is watching. I want to ask you to keep going. Studio said something to me there, but then I think they changed their minds. So what's happening behind me is that the VIPs are now laying their wreaths and people are still standing at semi-attention. We're going to keep on going and trying to get people whilst I continue to adjust my mask. Marisha, is this the most Polish day, or this is going to be one of the most ridiculous questions I've ever asked, I think, in my life. But if you had to, if you had to place this in the context of the annual calendar of historical events, there's nothing quite like this, is there? And also, I don't think the UK, with all due respect to the 11th of November, which is a really solemn and a moving day by the cenotaph, this is something different, isn't it? Is that because, we lost and, for all the deaths and suffering, the UK won those wars? I'm talking about the 20th century, obviously.
I think there's a tradition of remembering. I think that is a very strong element, and it may also be the fact that for a long time, and I think it needs to be remembered, that after the end of the Second World War, Poles were not allowed to actually remember the Warsaw Uprising until, I think it was 1957 was the first time that actually in Poland Poles were actually able to commemorate it fully and openly after sort of the Stalinist period. There was still very much communism, but the Stalinist period had gone past. It's a big day. It is a huge, I think, particularly for Warsaw. I think if anyone is from Warsaw, if anyone happens to be in Warsaw, you do definitely feel that. Although it is sort of remembered across the whole country. Though I have to say, I think that All Souls Day, so the 1st and the 2nd of November, I think that's a huge one on the Polish calendar. Whether you're in Warsaw, in Kraków or somewhere else, I think that's a big one. And it's also a day when you do remember those who lost their lives in the various uprisings, because Poland didn't have just one uprising. Well, there's quite a few in the history. And so I think that for me is sort of like a really pinnacle moment of sort of like Polish sort of coming together and remembering its history, sort of the whole of that history.
And how did your grandparents, are they still alive? Are we blessed to be with them? Or?
So of all my grandparents, only my grandmother is still alive. She was a young girl when the war broke out, so she was 6 when the war broke out, and she spent some time in France before they made it to the UK, where she stayed. But with my other grandparents, we have their memories sort of written down. We're very lucky that we sort of made sure to have those in writing.
And how did they explain the Warsaw Uprising to you?
So none of my grandparents were in the Warsaw Uprising. They always talked about sort of the importance it had to them and what that meant to them.
It must have been absolutely crushing to be in Maciek's army in Western Europe, knowing that your brothers, your sisters, your cousins are fighting in Warsaw.
Yes, I think that's what tends to bring Poles together. It was wherever Poles were at that very moment, they knew that their fellow countrymen were fighting in Warsaw, and were very much aware of the fact that help wasn't getting to where it was meant to be. I think that was also a very sort of key part of it. So yeah, I think none of, like I said, sort of it was my grandmother's brother who was in the Warsaw Uprising, and his body was never actually recovered. So every year I come and sort of lay a candle at one of the crosses, which is sort of dedicated to an unknown soldier. So they have someone there, they don't know who it is, and so we sort of change the grave every year. But so that was sort of the most direct family member that I had who fought in the Warsaw Uprising.
And what was his name again? What unit was he in?
So it was Piotr Potocki, and he was in Starówka. At this moment, the name absolutely escaped.
I'll very quickly go back to my microphone, because I recognise when someone's lost for words, and there's nothing wrong with knowing all that you can get deeply into the weeds and knowing all the things. So the old town where Marysia's great uncle fought was a particularly brutal fight. It was house to house, and it got increasingly bloody throughout the course of August. If you come to Warsaw, you can actually go there. Well, luckily, Ola is in the old town, and we're going to switch back over to Ola now.
So we're back next to the Royal Castle, and we've just met a nice couple from Spain, from Barcelona. So let's ask them how do they feel about August the 1st. Hello, hola.
¿Qué tal, hola? Okay, so we are a group of like scouts in Spain, in Barcelona, and we are doing like a travel during these days. We visit Polonia, and then we finish here our trip, and today is a special day. We knew before that it's a special day because of the rising of Varsovia against the German soldiers, and then we wanted to see what happened today, and it was really exciting. Yes.
How do you feel about what just happened here, when so many people gathered here to form this symbol of fighting Poland? Have you seen that?
Yeah, as I said, it was really exciting. So it's to see that the people enjoy the day and remember what happened during the World War it's really hard, and it's necessary. So it's good.
Do you believe that national identity is important in the contemporary world?
Yes. To remember what happened during the World War and during other wars, and to keep trying to get better with everything.
Learn from history, yeah. Thank you very much. Would you like to add something?
No, my English is very bad.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So maybe let's find someone else. Thank you for this short conversation. Take care. Okay. Oh, we have someone else.
In the same group.
But that's great. Where are you from?
From Barcelona.
So you're also Spanish. So how do you feel about this day? Have you witnessed what just happened here?
Well, I don't speak English. Sorry.
In some simple words, did your heart was touched?
Has been an amazing experience for us because we didn't know what you're going to do today, and has been amazing and very nice. So nice, yeah.
Is it the first time you are in Warsaw in Poland? Yes. What are your feelings about Polish people, about Poland? Do you like it here?
Yes, a good country. The people is very nice and so polite, and we're very happy. Yeah, to be.
Is there anything that you don't like about Polish people and Poland?
Sorry.
Is there anything that you don't like, you dislike about the place?
Wow, difficult question. I don't know. I prefer to say that everybody is amazing and.
so far so good. Thank you very much. Take all the best from us. Thank you. Okay, so back to Patrick, who's still at the Powązki military cemetery. Thank you.
Well, guys, I've got to be honest with you. Scouts are getting a lot of love in the comments. I'm super glad that so many of you have been able to join. And do you know what? I've only just realised that because of coronavirus, lots of people are watching this transmission that weren't able to actually be here in Warsaw. So I'm doubly proud and doubly grateful and doubly happy, triply happy that you're all with us. And it seems like Marisha, the scout, has been getting the most love. I haven't got any, I'm not like presenter jealous here at all. But, there's every once in a while you get a guest who steals your show. But listen, last year, the same thing happened to me. Last year, I happened to come across an amazing young man who expressed the beauty of Polish patriotism better than I could, better than anyone I've ever heard. I'm going to now ask the studio to put on a short film from last year which moved people around the world. Young, patriotic Poles who don't live in Poland, remembering their country and coming here. So, studio, release the film.
I have been lucky enough to trafić na some Greek guests, as you would say. I'm mixing my English and Polish. Hello, what's your name?
Hello, my name is Alicja.
Jan. Adam.
And Jan, you at the age of 16, you moved to the UK, to London, and you're now studying mathematics and IT at St Andrews.
Yes, it has been my childhood dream to become a scout, but unfortunately when I was living in Poland, I didn't have enough time. And then when I moved to London, suddenly I got more time. And I joined the Polish Scouting Association abroad.
And did you join because you wanted to, it was a way of keeping your Polish identity alive and being a part of the Polish community in London and the UK?
Yeah, part of it. And part of it was to fulfill my childhood dream. And I was lucky enough to meet people to accept me at the age of 18, basically, to scouting troop, because normally people in Poland join scouting at the age of 14 or so.
Okay, and what do you think being a scout brings to you as a person? How does it make you a better person?
I think it reinforces my values about how I should live, how I should treat myself, how I should treat other people, and the higher values about my faith in God, my pride in my country.
Tell me, the Warsaw Uprising then, and obviously scouts, people your age, you guys, how old are you guys?
I'm 19.
I'm almost 22.
19.
Young kids. I'm kidding, obviously. But actually, one of the amazing things is, of course, that the people who've fought in the Rising were very often younger than you guys. Do you see that connection? Is it important to you? Do you think about what you do now as a scout in the kind of context of carrying that tradition on?
Yes, and meeting people nowadays, people who fought in the uprising, it gives certain power. These people, they are so happy inside them. They have that, maybe even if they are not, maybe if because of age they are not fully, physically able, their internal strength is so amazing that all of us should learn from them.
Wow, I literally have spent all day live streaming about this event and I have not put it that brilliantly as you just did then. Okay, and what do you think the Warsaw Uprising means for you? You know, what lessons can you draw from it?
I think it's important to know that I think it was a matter of honor for them. A lot of them didn't have much hope for the uprising to actually succeed, given that they were counting for the Russians to cross the Vistula River, which of course didn't happen because of politics, but they knew that they are fighting to liberate themselves. They didn't want other people to liberate them. They wanted to owe it to themselves. And as you know, there is a Polish patriotic song, Warszawianka. It's about actually it was made in 1830 during another uprising, but it says, who will survive will be free, who will die is already free.
Okay guys, we're back at the military cemetery here in Powązki, and my camera operator Mariusz, a good friend of mine, happens to be a proud collectioner of weaponry, and I happen to have a small passion for shooting weapons of the Second World War. And yesterday I went to the Strzelnictwo Dziewiątka, so 9 Strzelnic and Józefów in Warsaw, and I had the chance to shoot some weapons that were used by the Warsaw Uprising soldiers. I tell you one thing guys, if you get into the subject, it's actually a really interesting thing to do, so I highly recommend the Strzelnictwo, not because you're glorifying war, but because it's giving you a perspective on how these weapons were used in the battle. I'm going to let you guys know a little secret. I want to write the first ever 3-part series around the Warsaw Uprising as books. And I'd like to talk to a publisher about it. So I'm going to show you 2 weapons. Mariusz knows what I'm talking about. The chap on the left in the blue overalls has got an MP40. It's a German submachine pistol. I believe, Mariusz, if I'm remembering correctly, with a 9mm round. Yes, the MP40? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is a 9mm round. Very effective, pretty reliable. But the Russian gun, which Mariusz is going to track to on the right now, the Pepeshka on the right-hand side, now that is a real beast with an 80-round drum. And although it tended to have stoppages more often and was prone to accidental discharges, I tell you one thing, if you had to go into a house-to-house battle where literally every single corner someone could be there, you'd want to have that gun in your hands. I once met Professor Witold Kezun, who told me that he had been going into cellars underground, and the Warsaw Uprising was a battle for each room at a time. You could be on one floor of a house and have Germans above you, or indeed the other way around. You could be in control of the cellars whilst the Germans were in control of the house. For every building that the Germans took back, the Warsaw Uprising soldiers would come back in the night and retake it. It's really hard to fight urban combat against a force that's at least has got the ground to support the civilian troops. And the other thing is the weaponry. Well, here's the thing about the Warsaw Uprising, they didn't have the weaponry. The guns you see here, the MP40 and the Pepeshka, those are Russian guns. Russian gun, and the MP40 is a German gun. And ammunition was a massive problem during the Warsaw Uprising, so guns were shared from one soldier to the other. I've got a photo which I uncovered from the archives after 74 years of my wife's grandfather with an MP40, and he looks pretty happy to have it. Guys, we're going to go back over to Ola. Stay with us. We're going to be going for the next sort of half an hour or so, showing you the scenes. I'm so very grateful and so proud of all of you watching us right now around the world. Let us know where you're watching from, and Ola, it's over to you.
Welcome back. Now we are at the Piwna Street, at the heart of the old town of Warsaw. And let's talk to some other tourists who are here today. Hello, my name is Aleksandra. What are your names?
My name is Laia.
Patricia. Aina.
Where are you from?
We are from Barcelona.
Okay, and have you just witnessed what happened here in the city of Warsaw?
Yes.
Okay, so what are your feelings about? Do you know what we are commemorating today?
Yeah, we know what is commemorating. I think that it's commemorating the start of the rising against the Nazis and the fail of the city of Warsaw. And we just see what happened in the place. Yeah. And I'm very impacted and shocked about what happened.
Have you ever heard before about the tragedy of the Warsaw Rising?
The what?
Have you heard before you came here to Warsaw? Maybe you've learned at school about the history of Poland?
I haven't. But I knew that it was like hard here in the Second World War. but I didn't know like exactly what happened.
Do you think that commemorating some historical facts is important, holding to tradition, to national identity?
Yes, I think like it's important to remember what happened and like the hard time that the country has, and I think like it's like for all the next generations to remember all the hard memories.
In what way we may commemorate those events of the past? In what way we may remember about our ancestors?
Especially, it's very important to commemorating the failures. I think that not only the victories. I think that we have to be proud about all the failures, because in Poland or in Warsaw, people fight against Nazis. And we have to commemorate that because the people be encouraged to fight against Nazis.
Thank you very much. Maybe we'll ask you also your friends. Would you like to say a few words? Okay, so thank you very much. Take care. Enjoy your stay in Warsaw. Bye-bye. Okay, so we'll try to find some other people. Excuse me, do you speak English? Yeah, but I don't. Oh, okay. So let's try to find some other persons who would be willing to say a few words on what's going on in Warsaw today. But as you may see, most of visitors to the old town of Warsaw are Poles, perhaps due to the pandemic. So maybe let's go back to Patrick and see what's going on over there at the military cemetery of Powązki.
Okay, so I've just finished an interview with a lovely lady here who was 19 years old at the time of the uprising and served in the Bashta unit. She's just given us a little interview there. And the things that she said were that she was really sad that there were so few combatants. She said that every year there's so many of us coming here to the Warsaw military cemetery here in Powązki, and that she was super sad. And I said to her at the end, I really hope that next year we see you and we're going to have a lot more of you. And she said, absolutely. I asked her how she felt watching the young people around here, and she said that she was moved to tears. And then just as we finished, she was given a flower by a young girl who was obviously a little bit... I'm going to see if we can grab someone. Should we go and grab someone, Mariusz? I think it's about time. You know, guys, one of my favourite passions is talking to random people. It's not something I get enough of in this country, but I can see two lovely ladies over here. Dzień dobry, mówicie po angielsku? Oh, fantastic. Where are you from?
From here, Poland.
From Warsaw?
Yeah.
And what's your name?
Claudia.
And Claudia, why are you dressed in this fantastic uniform? You're part of a Grupa Rekonstrukcyjna? You're part of a reconstruction group?
Yes and no. Well, today is a special day, so I decided to represent the history as shown, basically, and I feel some kind of attachment to this particular event because my father fought in Warsaw Uprising. So
What grandfather. What was his name and what unit was he in?
Bogdan Liskowacki. His pseudonym nickname was Sagan, and he was fighting for Śródmieście.
Okay, and did you have a chance to speak to him? Did you talk to him about it?
Unfortunately not, because he died 2 months before I was born.
Oh. So. And did he leave any memoirs or any books or writings or any memories?
I think there must be 2 orders that he received, but I don't know where they are. Unfortunately, my family, something is off and I cannot find them or see them in person.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of time because you're quite young. How old are you?
20.
So I just spoke to a lady over there who was 19 in the Warsaw Uprising. How do you feel when you think about, how you are at your age and everything you're capable of, but everything these people went through?
I would say I kind of have mixed feelings. First of all, I'm so extremely proud and thankful for those who fought in the uprising and who died, and I feel honored on the second hand that I am able to show that, to show people that it is necessary to remember the history and to continue remembering that.
Do you remember the first time you came to the Bobonsky Military Cemetery?
To be
It was so many years ago.
As a reconstructor, and
Just as a young girl, for example.
well, probably yes, but like the first time I remember, I think I was 7 or something. Yeah.
So you've probably been coming before that. And when you see the Powstańcy, so the Warsaw Uprising soldiers, you see the lady here, how do you feel? What kind of emotions rise in you?
The first thing that comes to my mind is just I put a smile on my face. It's like I want to come to her or him or the person and say thank you for what you've done, thank you for that I am here, and yes, just grateful.
Okay. And now I want to ask as well about how do they come up to you? They see the armband and the hair. I think you've done it in a kind of 1940s style. Is that right? Is this your normal hair?
No, of course not. I didn't. It took 40 minutes, I think, so it took a while.
Have you ever noticed how often they seem to look so good in the Warsaw Uprising? There's something they were still paying a lot of attention to their personal appearance, which seems really surprising.
Yeah, I don't know how they didn't. There were gunshots everywhere, there were bombs and no food basically, but somehow they managed to keep the hair neatly, and I don't know.
This is something, guys, if you look at the photos, they're posing with the guns. They look, I'm going to say it, badass. They just look super cool. And it wasn't an accident. So I was talking to a friend of mine who was going some of these guys were real hipsters. They were having their clothes specifically made so they would look as cool as possible for the uprising. There are many sides to the uprising. I talked about this before, but there's also the side where, you were 19 or 20 and, young people don't stop wanting to have a good time. And in amongst all the war and the gunfights and all the rest of it, there were parties, there was drinking, there was dancing. Mieczysław Fogg was giving concerts, weddings as well, famous weddings. In fact, you look almost like... Sadly, she passed away. It was a really sad story. She died last year, that lady, the famous one from the photo. What message would you like to get to people around the world about what the Warsaw Uprising should mean to them? What can they learn from the Warsaw Uprising?
First of all, we shouldn't judge whether it was necessary or not, because it's not our... how do you say it? We shouldn't decide that, because we don't live in time where we have to decide whether fight or not. So first of all, we shouldn't do that. Then we should remember and be extremely thankful to those who survived, who told us the stories of the uprising, of how they managed to survive, or how they did everything they could to basically took us to the place where we are now. Sorry.
What's your name, young lady?
Claudia.
Claudia, you speak really good English.
Thank you.
Where did you learn your English?
I study at Applied Linguistics at the Warsaw University.
Okay, so pretty fantastic. I'm now going to tell you something which might surprise you. You've just been watched by hundreds of people around the world. Poles from Australia, Poles from North America, people with Polish heritage, people who couldn't be here because of coronavirus and because of wonderful testimony of the things you said as well. I couldn't agree more. We're not here to judge these people. We don't have hindsight. How do we know what decisions we would have made at the time? It's why I never answer the question, would you have fought in the Warsaw Uprising? Because you know what? I have no idea, and I'm fortunate that I will never have to find out.
Yeah, actually, the most hated question I get asked when I'm dressed like this is, would you go and fight? And, you shouldn't ask a person such a question, because it's impossible to answer, basically. It's impossible to answer. There's a fear, I don't even know which emotions they come when something like this happens.
Do you have a favourite book about the Warsaw Uprising, the best thing that someone from outside of Poland could watch, like a book or a film? Miasto 44, 44.
I have a book. It's I think it's one of the most known books, Kamienie na Szaniec. So yeah, that's...
You'd have to learn Polish first, guys, before you could read that one. So good on you. It might take about 10 years, but trust me, you can still get there. So I'm going to go back to Ola in the Old Town. Stay with us, stay watching. We're going to be running live until 6 p.m. Warsaw time.
Welcome back. We have another guest. Hello, my name's Aleksandra. What's your name?
My name is MD Al Amin.
Where are you from?
I'm from Bangladesh.
And do you know what's going on today in Warsaw?
Yes, a little bit, which is today's Warsaw Uprising. And it was Warsaw Uprising anniversary in it was 1944. So, but yeah.
Who did we fight against?
It was against German. And
were we victorious, or was it a defeat in the end?
At the end, yeah, we was victorious.
Victorious? No.
At the end. No. Sorry, I don't.
It was a defeat, but in a way it was a moral victory, yes, because we managed to survive. Yes, the whole Warsaw was torn down to foundations. Most of the people were killed, but our spirit was not defeated, yes, and we managed to survive, yes. So that's why it's so symbolic, yes. That's why we are commemorating it today. And did you stand for a minute of silence at 5 p.m.?
Yeah, we did. We were in the bus anyway, but we were silent, and I see that everybody in the street, they were silent and standing where they were, so no moving, no movement. So that was really magnificent to see, and I can feel that people, everybody is like sharing celebration, and that was very nice to see.
Do you feel it's important to commemorate what happened in the past for people nowadays?
Of course it is, because our past and this country's past, which is help to build a future. So this past is very, very important to memorize and celebration, and you know.
Is it your first time in Poland?
No, I've been many times in Poland because of I'm married to Polish national, so it's been many times. So.
What do you like most about Polish people?
They are quite really generous and helpful. Whenever you need any information, if you ask, they are really helping, and they are open as well.
Is there anything you don't like about Polish people?
Really, I can't say that if I don't like anything. I really like them. So who they are and how they are.
Do you have any plans for today as for some other commemorations? Because there are lots of events taking place in Warsaw.
Well, we are walking through from Centrum to all the way Old Town, and we're gonna go to the riverside. So we are just taking part and to little everywhere what's going on in the city today, this special day.
Thank you very much for this conversation. Enjoy your day, and please be back to Poland soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Okay, so as you've heard, also someone from Bangladesh feels that the identity and tradition is very important no matter where you live. And as you may see, we are entering the old marketplace, which is so busy right now. And I don't know whether you know, but this place was unfortunately torn down to foundations. It was heavily demolished during the Warsaw Rising, as most of the city was ravaged by German artillery. Stuka dive bombers would fly from that side and they would drop bombs, so only this part of the old market square survived. That's all from me. Back to Patrick. Thank you.
Guys, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this emotional trip. So 4 years ago, I started to do live transmissions on my phone. 2 years ago, we decided to go with an all-day live stream from Warsaw. You know what? That was a mistake. But you learn from your mistakes. And yesterday I sat down with Dr. Alex Ritchie. I recommend her book Warsaw 1944 about the Warsaw Uprising, and I asked her what was her message. And she said that her main message from all the things she'd done was not to give in to hatred, not to give in to division, not to give in to prejudice, not to give in to the supposition that my group is better than your group or my bunch of people are better than your people, because we all know where that leads us. The horrific things that happen in Warsaw happen because of hatred. They happen because of division. And they happened because people thought that other human beings were not worthy of love and respect. Well, we now know That's not the case. Whatever we do in our lives, wherever we go in our lives, whoever we meet in our lives, we can always draw inspiration from the people and the past. The people we've met along the way and the people that we've been fortunate to come into contact along the way. You watched earlier on in this transmission as Bogdan Dębinski laid a flower at his dead brother's grave, paying tribute to his brother. Well, I want to tell you one thing, guys. I'll be coming back to Józef Dębinski's grave every single year and doing the same thing. And I'll be asking my young daughter, Zofia and Mia, to do the same thing as well. And that continuity means something. It's not meaningless. I think, sometimes you get the sense that history's not cool. Perhaps it's, not necessary. I think it is. There's something immutable, there's something extraordinary about the Poles' ability to keep that history going. And I really wish that the future generations of Poles don't miss that. Now, that doesn't mean that today has been all tears, all crying, although there's been plenty of that. I've seen the emotion on people's faces. There's also been laughter, and I don't have any problem with having a laugh and meeting people and laughing with them. But I do want to make sure that when I talk to my young daughters about Warsaw, and with my 4-year-old daughter, I talk to her every now and then, we'll talk about it. There's a picture of her great-grandfather on the wall, and I say, this person was willing to give his whole life for your city and your country and for freedom. The cries out in the background are Cześć chwała bohaterom. It's a beautiful Polish expression which really is, in my opinion, you can't really translate it. It means glory and praise of the heroes, but it's more than that. It's not just an empty slogan. It's not political, okay? It's not partisan. It's a sign of respect. And if I sometimes get frustrated in my life, it's because people think that history is somehow political in Poland. It's not political. These people are all here because they love the people who were willing to give their lives for the people they loved. It's a continuity of love. It's a continuity of sacrifice. It's something we can all learn from. It's something we should all learn from. So I've dedicated the last few years to producing history content. I want to give out some thanks now to our amazing team. So Kuba, Sebastian, Ola, to Mariusz, Dorian, Maria, Marisha as well, not the Misha, the hard Serka that everyone's seen and fallen in love with. I've got to tell you a little anecdote, guys. We had a little party for my birthday and to celebrate me being a Polish citizen, and Marisha was the most popular person at the party. Everyone goes, oh, that Marisha's really, really nice. I went back to my wife, I was talking about Marisha, and she goes, you're going to keep on talking about Marisha for the next 2 days. So she's just an awesome person. Guys, thank you very much for joining me. I also want to thank all of our partner pages, so Mikołaj Kaczmarek, Stefan Thompson, Go to Warsaw, and people are waving over here. Go to Warsaw and a whole bunch of other partner pages. Thanks to you, we've been able to achieve this thing. And guys, I want to let you know one thing. The effort doesn't stop here. The sacrifice doesn't stop here. I think I've slept about 5 hours a night for the last 3 weeks because I've been putting together an interview with Marek Ostrowski as a 6.5-year-old boy. He survived the Warsaw Uprising. He talked about watching women be raped and murdered in front of him. He talked about watching uprising soldiers just at the last part of the Warsaw Uprising getting pulled out of the ranks of civilians and executed. He talked about watching a 17-year-old uprising soldier that he knew being shot and begging to be killed because the pain was so intense. And Marek Ostrowski had to walk away from that boy, who was a hero to him. We've also been working on a film with Filip Heiser as well, and I've met so many patriotic Poles who are doing great things. It's not about me, guys, it's about you. I ask you guys to support this mission. I ask you to share. I ask you to follow, not just me, but all the people like Nie Zapomnij o nas Powstańcach Warszawskich, Bohaterom, Museum of the Warsaw Uprising. All of you can be involved, and if we all work together, we can do something really quite incredible. We can keep the memories of Edmund, of Jerzy, of Stefan. We can keep the memories of Kupryn, Antony, Zbigniew, Wiesław, Jerzy, Stanisław, Edward, Maria, Kazimierz, Andrzej, Marek, Stefan alive. Of Roman, Kazimierz, Sławomir, Jerzy, Henryk, Włodzimierz, Bogdan, Jan, Jerzy, Zdzisław, Ryszard alive. We can keep the memories of Andrzej, Henryk, Janusz, Zosia, Eugeniusz, Irena alive. We can keep them all alive. We can keep them alive in our hearts and our memories. This is the mission I've dedicated myself towards, my friends, and I hope you join me on it. So thank you again, and here's the good news. We'll be back next year, and we'll probably do something even more crazy and cool. So I invite you to join me next year for another episode of W Hour. Thank you very much. Now share this episode, send it on, write in, be a part of making sure this film is still watched. You can go back and watch Godzina Vu in about Godzina Vu, so W hour. This film will still be available. You can still go and watch. You can still watch it on YouTube. I've got a whole bunch of other historical films on my channel as well. So please be a part of making that happen, because without you guys, none of it's possible. I'm pretty close to crying now, guys, so I think it's probably time for me to shuffle off and maybe even go have a glass of wine. Thank you for joining me.